Now friends, today we are going to discuss about the structure of the cell. What is a cell? If we have to define cell, the definition for the cell goes like, cell is the basic structural and functional unit of all living organisms. That means all living organisms are made up of cells. There are two terms, structural and functional. Now let us understand what does it mean. Cell is the structural unit of all living organisms. This means that cell is the building block of life. Means cells are put together to form a living organism. Just as if we take an example of a building, we say that bricks are the structural unit of building. That means bricks are kept in an organized manner and it forms a building. Similarly, cells kept in an organized manner, they form a living organism. Now, living organisms, they have to perform so many functions and so many processes like nutrition, respiration, growth, development. All these functions, they are performed with the help of cells. So, we can say that cell is the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. By long, the structure of the cell was not known, and it was not at a single go that cell structure was revealed. It took hundreds of years for the revelation of the cell. Now there were various scientists who has contributed to find out the structure of the cell. Now there are some of the scientists, the names are written there. Now let us see what was their contribution in finding out about the cell. Robert Hooke was the first to name the term cell, and he observed cell in the cork of the tree. Even before Robert Hooke, there was a scientist who was known as Galileo Galilei. He was a scholar. He arranged two glass lenses within a cylinder and he looked at insects. He could see strange, stunning patterns of tiny eyes. He was not a biologist. He was the first one to record biological observation made through the microscope. From then onwards, the study of cellular basis of life was about to begin. It first started in Italy, then in France and England. And this person, Robert Hooke, he was a curator of instrument from Royal Society of England. Now he first turned the microscope to the thinly sliced cork from a mature tree. Then he observed tiny compartment there. He gave the name to these compartment as cell, and cell means a little room, a small room. Henceforth the term cell came into existence and it was used by all. And actually this was the walls of dead cell which he saw. Then after his discovery, there was another scientist, Leeuwenhoek. His name was Anton van Leeuwenhoek. He was a Dutch shopkeeper and he has had excellent skills in constructing lenses. And he started observing everywhere with his own microscope, and he saw some living cells in the ponds. He could even identify bacteria, and it was in 16th century. After that, the study of bacteria started in 18th century. Then there was a scientist, Robert Hooke. He was also a botanist, and by his time there was quite an improvement in the microscopes, and lenses could be focused into sharper. At this time, the microscope could focus sharp objects. So Robert Brown, when he was studying about cells, he discovered an opaque spot in the center of the cell and he termed that as nucleus. Later on, Purkinje in 1839, he gave the term protoplasm to the living parts of the cell. We are going to discuss them in detail further. Then there were two scientists, Schleiden and Schwann. They worked separately, but their collective efforts are today known as the cell theory. Schleiden was a botanist. His name was Matthias Schleiden, and he wondered that whether this nucleus had something to do with cell development. and there he hypothesized that each cell must develop as an independent unit, even though it was an integral part of the plant. Then the Schwann, Theodor Schwann, he was a zoologist. He thought that even the animals were also made up of cells, and to some extent the cells are the part of whole organism and they can have their individual life. Now the question arises, these are the cells. Where do these cells come from? Now the answer was given by Virchow, who was a physiologist. His name was Rolf Virchow, and he was studying about the cell reproduction and growth. And when he was studying about his cell reproduction and growth, he gave the theory that all cells, they arise from pre-existing cells. There is no cell which can form on its own. Now here comes about the cell theory. After so many postulates and studies on the cells, the cell theory came into existence. There are 3 points for the cell theory. First is, all plants and animals are made up of cells. So cells is as we have already studied, that cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. So cell theory says that all plants and animals are made up of cells, and cells are the basic unit of life. The basic unit is cell. And the third theory, the cell theory, the third point is that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. Now this was all about some scientists and their contribution towards the cell study. Thank you for today.